Do you think people figured out what my name is gonna be? I'm running around the whole entire neighborhood and I don't even know what my name is. It's like I'm Jane Doe, a deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of golden sun, me, a name. Wait, is that my name? I call myself a long, long way to run. So, a needle pulling thread, a note to follow, so, tea, a drink with jam and bread, which will bring me back to Doe. Jane Doe, come on, figure it out. I'm dying here.
You're not dying.
No, I really am. I'm really truly dying.
You're just such a drama queen.
Gosh, I'm not. Why do you say that?
Some of the items that we're going to use today are the stamp from Hampton Art, some embossing foil in emerald green, this piece of paper that was chosen by the person I'm creating the card for. I also wrote some notes of what the card should include, so stay strong, emerald green music and words. I pulled that paper from that paper pad. I also pulled out some sequins, and I wasn't sure which ones I was going to use, but I thought I was going to go for the gray. I also pulled out Ranger Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks and the worn lipstick, the peeled paint, and the iced spruce. I was also asked to use the sentiment Stay Strong. I have a pre-folded Strathmore Bristol Smooth 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I pulled out some music note paper that I recently picked up at Tuesday morning from DCWV in the 12 by 12 size, and I have some metallic silver paper from DCWV as well. I take out my brand new T ruler that you'll see in an upcoming haul video. I put that to work and I figure out what size I need to cut the gray paper, and I use my Westcott titanium paper trimmer. Then I do the same thing to the beautiful pinstripe butterfly paper, which I adore. I love the tattered look to it, and I try to figure out how I'm going to use this, because at this point I'm still kind of in the dark on what I'm doing. So I try to take my time cutting the pieces, because this is a way for me to try and figure out in my head what the heck I'm going to do for this card. I move on and cut some music paper and figure out how I'm going to use that as well. I tried not to get the paper exactly to size, because we all know how that goes with me. I always cut it short or crooked, so I chose to cut it oversized so that I can cut it to size later.
Say my name, say my name.
I bring out my sponge daubers and my brand new case, which you'll see on a future haul, and I pull out the matching finger daubers that go with my inks. I smush the ink onto the craft mat, I spritz it with water, and I start dabbing the music paper into the ink. I take out my heat gun and I dry the paper on both sides of the paper, because I found that I was getting a little bit of curling, and in order to straighten that a little bit, I wanted to just heat the other side. Sometimes that can take care of it so it's not so curled.
Say my name, say my name.
And I finish up by scooping up every last bit of that ink. I really like the look that I have here, so I'm going to heat set that and move on to next steps. I really wasn't sure what those next steps were, so in the meantime I pulled out my finger dauber with the ice spruce ink and I edged out the edges just to give it a little bit more dimension, even though those edges most likely will be trimmed off. I ended up rolling the paper again just to make sure it was a little bit more straight. I'm really eager to use some of this new embossing powder that I received from my generous crafter friend Jan. I stamped up my stamp. I love the stamp. The stamp is just amazing. I love all the little words in it. I pushed down as hard as I can, but apparently I didn't do a very good job of that, because the center of this tree doesn't get as much ink as I thought it did. And then I forgot to put the embossing powder's anti-static cling thing on there again, which I do all the time. And I get so mad at myself about that. Why can't I ever remember? Anyway, I flick off the embossing powder to get it off of there. Once the big reveal is made, you can kind of see that there's a hole in the center of the tree. So I take out every kind of blingy ornament that I can think of that might work with this tree. And I'm thinking, okay, we got to put a bird in it. And if I was doing a crane card, I could put a crane on it. But instead, I decide that because the inspiration was words and music, I decided to use the Ampersand ampersand symbol.
The ampersand, standing for and, as in Smith and Company.
I decided to put that in the middle of the tree to kind of hide that spot in there, and it adds a little bit more interest to the card, so I really enjoy it. I love the color of it. It matches the background perfectly.
Isn't ampersand and ampers and?
And instead of the gray sequins, I decided to go with more of a really light yellow green. I really like this result because the pink in the sequins picks up on the pink, and then the yellow green picks up on the yellow green, so it's almost as if they're not there. I pull out my precision tip applicator with some matte gel medium inside, and I tip those on to the card.
Ampersand, resembling a broken infinity, the ampersand reminds us that nothing truly lasts forever, but there is always an and.
So the front of the card, I believe, is done. So now my next step is to try my hand at the center of this card. I did know that I wanted the gray in the background. I did know that I wanted that pink on top. I wasn't sure if I wanted the music on the inside or not, but then I thought to myself, you know, most cards don't have every single surface covered, so I thought, well, I can move forward with the pink and the gray.
The ampersand, a punctuation mark used to represent conjunction and.
Then I pull out my Stay Strong stamp and some Momenta Tuxedo black archival ink, and I stamp that away. This time I pushed down a little bit too hard, and dang it, I got a little bit of additional stamping on the piece, and I was pretty upset about that because I'm like, okay, well, I can't really take it off. So while I was calming down from that, I took out my Handmade stamp and I did the back of the card. That one turned out just fine.
I like the tree. The tree is very nice, even if you have a huge honking hole in the middle of it. I like the glittery sequences.
Well, thank you. I thought I need a way to hide that, so I took out this wooden butterfly. I colored it with a little bit of Holly alcohol ink from my Spectrum Noir Illustrator alcohol marker and filled in some of the butterfly. Unfortunately, the alcohol inks did bleed because it's a wood material. I colored the rest of it in, and I glued that down to the inside of the card.
Oh, what's my name?
I just had a feeling that I couldn't really go over the top with this card, and even so, I still took out my Molotow gold marker and kind of made some dots on the front of the piece just to add a little bit more interest. And then on the back of the card, I decided to put my $1 million of love on the back. So I wrote that on the back so that the person receiving it knows that it was made with the intention of love. And there you have it. This is one of the quickest cards I've made, and I surprised myself by it, but I really had a good time making it. You can see here more detail in the embossing of the tree. You can see a little bit more of that butterfly, and don't look at the bleeding. Don't look at that. I hope you enjoyed this card. I had a good time making it, and I'm happy to share it with you. If you're interested to see what else I create, consider subscribing, because I'd love to have you as a viewer. Until next time, love you guts. Bye!
Really? What is it? Yeah!